All the means order?
Yes.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. Is there items to add here?
Yes.
Would you mind adding the registrar's hours?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we skip the end of the December meeting, it would run kind of close.
Okay, put down under H and new business. Anything else?
Under old business, I'd like to go over the letter that you've got in front of you from Town of Kennebunk that's going out to all residents. See if the selectmen would like to do that as well.
That'd be it.
That would be it.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Okay. Public forum. Does anybody want to raise an issue or bring to the attention of the board, something that we're not already slated to discuss this evening?
I would like to say something.
Yes,
Don
sir.
DeWitt, you guys up here have got to come up with a way of saving some money for the taxpayer in town. We're looking at the school board budget, you're looking at a new town hall, and money for the fire department. It's about time you people say, you know, the wish list is over. Think of the people in town that are having a hard time paying their taxes. And when the school board comes through, and your new town hall and everything, how are we gonna pay for this? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Don. Yes, Jack.
Yes, Jack Reeds, just in time, I guess.
Yes, you are.
I'm not sure if my comments are appropriate now or later in the agenda, but I did want to say something about the proposed town hall. Specifically, in looking at the town website, there's the number of people that have populated Arundel over the last 50 years has grown about 7% a year. And I anticipate that growth is going to continue. My concern is that whatever plans you're laying out for the town hall reflect anticipated growth. That kind of is a concern from a cost standpoint, but instead of just looking to move to another building, I think you really need to look ahead 10, 20 years.
Well, we're gonna have a discussion with these gentlemen here about that, I think.
Fine, let me save further comments
Look
for
for your
later.
comments then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. So we'll move on. Approval of minutes, November 25.
On page 2, under G, down here it says, where do you think the best location, I think it should be think. That's the only thing I picked up on.
Any other corrections? Anybody pick up?
Make a motion, we approve as amended.
A second on that?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, should we move on down to discussion with Ryan Senator and Will Conn, waiting for input on the town hall planning process, and get these gentlemen on their way before it gets any worse.
Thank you.
How do you want to proceed?
They have everything ready to go. Ryan will fire up the smart board and we'll fire away with questions. Right there. Touch the screen, Ryan. Really? Yeah, touch the screen. I just wanted to see if you could do that.
There it is.
It worked.
Lights. Under the shade, that.
So we have a few images here to present tonight. We'd previously kind of gone through an exercise of writing up a project program with Todd and his staff. That's kind of what they need and what they foresee for the future space needs of the town. And essentially they've developed that into a floor plan here that kind of reflects the adjacencies and how the space is and how we think to efficiently organize the program, so it'd be a very functional town hall for the town of Arundel. So I'll just kind of walk through. Now, keep in mind this is, as we all know, we don't have the site nailed down yet, so things could change in terms of the entries and siting. But I think in general, this footprint is starting to come together. So as we'll start kind of just walking in the entrance of the building. So we're thinking, having a parking area out front, a main entrance with a vestibule, and come into a lobby area that basically the function of the lobby area is for waiting, but also to, for townspeople to actually come and have access to the administrative area, but also we call it the real property office area with, the plans and tax records, etc. And essentially they can do that all in a secure environment through windows. If they need to come into the real property office area, they can come through this door here. And also kind of the second function would be for the general assistance office. You could come in and there's a small GA waiting area that's a little more private that you could wait for your appointment here with the general assistance office. So this is kind of the public realm without being let into other parts of the building. So it's kind of a secure area. There is a unisex toilet off of that as well. The sheriff's office is also off the lobby. Essentially, there is a door into the main admin area. And this is the space that kind of all the spaces are organized around. It's kind of the hub. This is open office area with some cubicles. We're showing six seats here now. I think that's one additional than we had planned on. So that's accounting for some future growth. Off of that, there's basically a circulation corridor through the building. We're thinking you could have the employee entrance kind of on the side of the building, and they could come in here, so it'd be a little separation and more secure. A mechanical space off of that, an IT server room with some storage off of that area, as well as an entrance into the real property area. So if the site works out, we could have the auxiliary parking space or parking lot on this side of the building. Coming off the administrative area, we have a copy area, the vault, which would be a fire-rated secure room to protect all the town's documents. The deputy treasurer, town manager's office in the back here with a work area, and then the break area with some additional storage for the employees. Potentially, we would have an egress door here, but potentially they could have an outdoor employee lunch space in the back, depending on how the site works again. Coming through this door here, this would be access to the main toilets for the users of the building, the staff, as well as the janitor's closet. And we talked about a potential shower here as well for future needs if this ever needed to be used in an emergency situation. Or we thought that the idea of putting some plumbing in there for that is a good idea. Kind of the secondary function, or secondary access, I should say, is to the community room, which could be used off hours. So you could secure this door, enter in this vestibule, and then any community functions could have access to the bathrooms as well, but not have access to the rest of the building. So this, the after hours access would kind of be over here in this area. The largest and you could say most important space in the building is this community room. We're trying to design this. We've been talking about what's the appropriate size. The way we have it laid out, it's about 2,000 square feet, about 40 by 50, and with the potential of being subdividable, so we could have a folding wall down the center. So you could break this out into two smaller meeting spaces or conference areas. There's a small kitchenette off of that. You need, that function, when the break room is closed or locked off. Small storage area in the back for tables and chairs. But essentially, and then some egress, and then, could be a built-in desk with seating behind, and then a presentation board in the back. So, in general, that's kind of the layout of the space. We're looking at, this floor plan here is about 7,100 square feet, just to kind of give you an idea how the space needs that we've come up with, where it lands. We are proposing at this point that this is a slab-on-grade, 1-story, to basically keep costs. That's probably the most cost-effective construction we can have. Depending on the site that we come up with, that may change if there was grading, and maybe there's some opportunity for a daylight basement or something. But I think, where you could pick up some more storage. But I think at this point, this is probably the safest bet. We've kind of analyzed the front elevation and how this may look. So this image, we've come up with that basically the main body of the building is a hip roof and 1-story construction. This would be a kind of a hip extension off the side. This would be the community room. But essentially the idea is that we build this cost effectively, nothing really too extravagant. But so it's all relatively conventional construction, clapboard siding, maybe some fiber cement panels, standard window sizes, and at the entry, kind of elevate the entry a little bit, give it a little bit of ceiling height with some columns and maybe some granite or block base, just to give it that civic feel. So it doesn't just feel like a residential structure, but kind of give it an aesthetic, so it looks like this is the Arundel Town Hall. So put a little bit of design into the entry area, but try to maintain a pretty conventional construction around the building. So that's kind of the level we've taken it to at this point for the design, and we welcome your comments or questions.
You got questions?
That front door, of course, is gonna have to be handicapped accessible.
Yes.
Is there gonna be one of those buttons somewhere that you have to open so the door
Yeah.
will open so someone can?
Yeah, typically we have a button on one side and it would operate one leaf of the door on the opposite side, basically.
And that half a door is big enough for someone in a wheelchair to
Yeah,
get through?
this is a pair of 3-foot doors.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a standard door size entry door. Yeah.
Is that closet in the meeting room big enough for your needs?
That's what that's something that I just got a chance to see the print
Sure.
Friday, and so I guess that would be one of my things is maybe extend the
storage.
meeting room all the way to the back of the building and take that storage. I would take the break room that's there, maybe move the sink to the other side and put a little wall of lockers, and then put most of the bulk of that storage room plus whatever you could extend into the meeting room, because you're talking about storing chairs and storing voting booths and voting equipment, and there's a lot of things that need to be stored that are used, just for that meeting room, and I don't think that's enough storage space, and I kind of question the vestibule. I can see if you want to break up the rooms, but it's also wasted space. It's a hallway. It's just, to me, wasted space.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And I guess another thing we talked to Todd about is the fact that I don't think the town manager's area is appropriate back there, because you're talking about buzzing maybe a disgruntled client, walk all the way through all of the staff, and then so if you get a disgruntled taxpayer, you're walking through the where money's being handled and everything else, as well as the office staff, and to get to the town manager. So I don't know if maybe extending the other end of the building and kind of flipping some of that, and maybe putting the manager where the storage room or something, or near the real property area so that there's access somehow. I think I would reconfigure that whole. To me, the deputy clerk, the deputy treasurer could be either outside in one of those cubicles, or not more than where the town manager is in that back area, and then maybe reconfigure the vault. And mechanical, to me, could be in the back of the building, and IT in the back of the building, and have the manager more forward or something. I don't know. That's just my thoughts, though. But
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Move the town manager towards the front of administration, so you'd actually have to go past the town manager to go into.
Either that or put the door on the other, well, no, then you lose the counter space
Right
for
here.
that, yeah, you lose the counter space.
You don't want people that want to see the town manager, you don't want them walking through all of that.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Should we provide that there's an office space or conference room available that he can come out?
Yeah, I mean, potentially,
Yeah.
it could be,
Somebody, I don't think that should be in his office, period, because there are items there that perhaps members of the public ought not to be privy to for a variety of reasons, so,
And, yeah, the general assistance and sheriff's area will be multi-use spaces.
yeah, so, I mean, if you were gonna meet with somebody, disgruntled,
potentially come out.
come out and do it outside of that area, I would think.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want them walking through there.
No.
absolutely not.
I mean, we've done that in our office too, we keep everything away from offices because of confidentiality and those types of things, you know, we can't have people in your office, we gotta go, we got a conference room set up for meetings of.
Mhm.
What were you saying with the storage, Simone? I didn't quite understand.
In that back area, I would almost extend the meeting room all the way square.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then if you turn around, I don't know if you can see that, but basically, if you put the sink there and then just move this wall a little bit and then maybe put lockers or something and the table could be more here, then you could use this as storage.
Access that from the
And
community
access
room.
it from the community room so that this storage, a deeper closet, and then you have a smaller closet here.
Yeah,
So in other words,
yeah, basically
if you
pick up
some of the
this
space from the cap, you know, like
The
the
storage.
eating room,
Yeah,
and then move that wall back, and we could do lockers or something back there. But then you would have a deep closet into the meeting room as well as a smaller closet. So this deep closet could maybe be accessed for
so
your
you're
voting
concerned about
equipment.
voting and machines and those types of things?
Right,
yeah.
because right now, I mean, the old booths that I have, the new booths are 20-something years old, almost 20, because I got them when I got here, so those things are like 20-something years old, they're all falling apart. The newer booths tend to be on racks that are stored like, almost like suitcases or whatever. So between storing that and the voting machine itself is a big, you know, the box thing
Yeah.
that you have to store. Plus, if you're talking voting, all of those chairs that are there have to be folded and stored somewhere as well. You've got the space open for voting. So that's a lot of stuff to store, I think, you know.
Okay.
You know. And I don't think that little closet is enough. You think at the gym how deep those two storage closets are on either side, that they put all their chairs and stuff in.
Mhm.
I think we need something as deep as the first one anyways when you come in.
At least Dayton's Town Hall, their meeting room, that whole back wall, except for the door, I think, that comes in, almost that whole back wall is all closets. And they're all full of stuff, the chairs, their voting machines and everything else they have in those closets, because the closet with all the voting stuff in it is kind of locked.
Because like when you're having elections, all your conference table, your microphones, all of that is gonna have to be stored. You won't want to leave those out while you're voting, so all of that will have to be stored. And so I think having one deep storage closet, and maybe the smaller one together, you know.
But usually the other towns leave, they might leave their tables set right up. You're just not anywhere, they don't vote, I don't know how Kennebunk Board does it down at the fire station. But that stuff is all wired right in, so.
You're talking about vote, like a town vote, or when you have to set up the booths?
Elections.
Elections? Yeah, I mean, that would be handled, you could have that. You need that set up over there, and you could have the voting downstairs. What if we, like on our bigger town meetings,
At least 150, I'd say.
That's
I've seen this gym half full before.
yeah, 'cause I mean, that's less than 100 people in there, right?
Yeah, that's like 97 seats.
Yeah,
I don't
mean,
think that's
it's
big enough.
88 just for the, it's 88 seats just for the public. Not very big.
If we take the 7,100 square feet you have allotted to this building and multiply it by, and I think I'm being generous, 250 a square foot. On the commercial side, I think we're low. That's $1.8 million for this building.
Yep.
And I don't think that community room is nearly big enough. If we take what Jack had stated earlier and look out 10, 20 years, and we add, let's say, 5% average every year instead of the 7, and that's gonna fill up this year, let alone 20 years. Has there been any look, I know it's completely lot dependent, but
Yeah,
in sticking the community room underneath the building and
in a two-story
and
option.
going up versus out. I mean, if you take that 1,500 square feet and multiply it by that same 250 a square foot, that's a $300,000 community room.
Well, that's 2,000 square feet, so, yeah,
Well,
even more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a $550,000 community room.
Yeah,
You can't tell me the cost of an elevator, and they're gonna make us pour 8-foot walls anyway, being a commercial building.
yeah. One, two, elevator, 2 stairs, and that's,
Well, if it's a daylight room, I think we could get away with a ramp on the back side of it, or,
yeah,
take one of the unisex bathrooms, put an elevator shaft in one of those squares
Yeah.
down. Take that bathroom and move it to the basement level, so you'd have a
yeah.
handicap accessible bathroom on the ground level.
Yeah, I think you definitely want a daylight basement.
You'd have to,
Public function down there.
I think that would make our community room bigger, for one. It would grow it,
Yeah,
I don't know, 10 feet in either direction.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could, in this plan, you could relatively easily stretch it in 2 directions.
entire-
as well,
right.
But, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there are implications to that, but you definitely could move it underneath.
I think the Virginal Drive lot is a perfect lot for a daylight basement down hall.
But
It
it's,
seems like there's an old that's built up there. You know what I mean?
the one concern would be in a space that big, though, you're not gonna want any ceiling. I mean, it would feel pretty oppressive, so you'd probably go to a taller foundation wall, you know.
The cost in cement that you'd have in that floor alone would justify probably the walls, the increased walls all the way
2 feet.
around, you know?
Yeah.
I think it would be easier to heat stacking the building on top of each other versus spreading the building out.
Yeah. Now, so you're thinking 150 people, 200, I mean, yeah.
And what did we get for a count here? We're not even at
Well,
100.
I had about 100 plus 40, potential for 40 standing. So,
Yeah, right now there's 88 seats, not counting.
yeah,
In my opinion, I don't think it's big enough, but
yeah.
Yeah, me
that's
too.
strictly my opinion.
Now, how much do you push, if you take Simone's suggestion, how many seats do you gain, shoving that wall back?
You probably gain, you might gain another group like this, so it's that, 2, 3 rows, yeah.
22, 25, something like that.
So 108.
And then if you come back to with the front a little bit, square the front off, you gain another 2, 3 rows.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could gain maybe 40 seats if you expanded it the full width of this.
But now you're increasing the footprint of the building,
Yeah.
you're increasing the cost of the building.
So if you could, daylight, where's the meeting room? I mean, is it in the same position it is here?
You're
No,
thinking
right
it's
under the office.
Under the office,
There.
so we don't have this wing
No,
anymore.
that wing isn't there.
It would be that big.
Yeah, I mean, I think, ideally, if that was it, I would probably, what would be nice is if you could have an entry down and then kind of a nice entry on the side of the building here. So it's not that far. I wouldn't want you to have to go around back, It'd be nice if, and it depends on how Will can help us with that, retain the earth and get around. Maybe get a nice, a lot of glass on this wall just so it feels open.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that.
I think we could bring the square foot cost down if we stack the building, a multi-level building.
Yeah, and, a 2-story elevator, you're probably looking 50,
80, yeah.
60. But,
Well, you got a $600,000 community room now. If you back that price out,
maybe it picks it up. And we could probably get away with one interior stair. Because you could egress out, obviously that one means out there. Under that.
I don't think we'd have to do the entire.
Square feet, right, we could have storage,
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
functions down there.
But by the time you take that and you put in that storage, because that storage is nowhere near enough for that meeting room, especially for voting, for everything that we need in the meeting room, then if that meeting room was the whole size of that middle, that would give you the storage that you need.
Yeah, but you could also take some of the mechanical stuff, some of that other stuff and put that down and even shrink this a little bit more. You know, if you're
Yeah,
gonna-
you could use this area underneath as, you know, secondary space. It'll be dark and
Well, you're
dry.
talking about putting foundation, putting,
Full basement.
full basement under everything.
Well,
I don't think you have
you
to.
could
I
do
would
this
just think
area.
You could do parts of it, you know, you could take some of the mechanical stuff and they could go down in the basement and reconfigure a few things around, or maybe even shrink that footprint itself a little bit.
Yeah,
Now, did you figure like a forced hot air heating system or what?
we haven't really got
You haven't got that far. Yeah.
No. Obviously, yeah, this would be ideal with a slab, but a radiant, but
Well, yeah. That's
but
what I was
obviously if we
thinking.
start, yeah. Which is a pretty efficient way to go.
Because Dayton did a really good job with between solar panels and geothermal, and they have, I think it's all, no heating cost other than,
They have a zero, just about a zero footprint. The only footprint they have is a little bit of propane that they use for the generator, which starts once a week and runs for 10 minutes. But other than that, not only is their building, doesn't cost them anything, but I think they send energy back to the power company. So,
and that was through grants and things like that, but they got.
Oh, sure, yeah.
yeah.
There's solar and geo. The only thing is, when we went to visit it, that was the first thing they said is they wish they would have put their meeting room larger. That they already find that it's too small.
It's too small.
And,
Do we know what size that may be?
we have a print at
Yeah.
the town hall.
Do you have those
I
prints?
think I do.
Okay.
I'll go back and look.
I think it was 1,200 square feet.
I know it was smaller than
Small,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's small.
Yeah.
This one, you're coming straight to the right, right?
Pardon?
Their meeting room is the one right to the right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's as big as this.
No, I don't even think it's
No.
as big as this.
No.
Yeah, that was their biggest regret,
Yeah.
that they didn't bump it out right
I'm sorry, it
away.
doesn't. Same
Yeah.
for everything with the fire station.
Yeah.
Maybe that GA waiting area could be a little conference room where the town manager could, but there's no door on that. Because if you've got Wendy in her office meeting people and the sheriff in that office, someone comes in to see Todd, he's not gonna wanna come out and sit in the lobby to meet with them.
But we can also divide that community room and use half of that space as a room to meet during the day when it's not in use as well.
Which community room?
Well, with this layout, we see where the accordion wall is right through the center there, that'd be a nice meeting space during the day when we're not using it.
So you're talking about if we kept this layout, but we're
Right.
gonna make it much bigger.
Right. Or we drop
Oh,
that
one
low
story.
and
Jack?
Yes, I agree with virtually all of the comments that have been made, first of all. And reducing the size of the footprint makes a whole lot of sense if you can do it with the land that you choose. I would like to see the thinking expanded a little bit. We're talking about a community room, and the context, I think, of just very occasional use, maybe once a week, or a few meetings. Could it not also be a senior center? If you look at the population of this town and look at the growth of the population, it's at the senior side. And why not turn it into a senior center during the day and use it, if you will, full-time, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or 10 to 5, without any additional cost, except possibly good storage, and as a community center. And solve I think a problem that exists in the community but hasn't really been addressed, and that is there's a growing senior population. I won't take advantage of it because I'm way too young.
We did have a senior group meeting at the fire station originally, but
Pardon?
we did used to have a senior group meeting at the fire station.
Well, I'm talking about a,
You know,
you know, a much larger,
Yeah,
expanded, functional group with a lot of people that don't get out very much. And without adding to the cost of this operation at all.
With something like that, I mean, the uses are really, you know, endless, right? I mean, there's spaghetti suppers, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of, if you have a place that's like that, I guarantee you people are gonna find use for it.
but see, then that would raise a concern about the size of the kitchen, because
Mhm.
that's exactly what you have at the fire station, and it's not enough to handle anything.
I
You know?
agree there,
Yeah.
that, but you, if you can define your needs first, and be sure you don't overlook anything in the process of building.
If that was in the basement, back here in the room was in the basement, a daylight basement, that means you're gonna have windows only on one side. So that means that those windows are the windows behind the table. And if you wanted to divide that room up, so that you could have 3 meetings going at the same time, then 2 of those people are gonna have meetings in rooms with no windows.
Well, I might look at this being the wall with windows. So if you could shift that whole room, you know, take
Yeah.
that room and slide it under. That way, if you did divide it, you could get glass, you know, like.
In every room, okay.
I mean, we'd have to
Yeah.
figure out the egress, because once you start dividing, that's why part of what you're looking at with the corridor here is we need this door, we need this door, we need this, you know. It's a lot of doors, because if you have over 50 people, you need 2 means of egress, so. But I mean, we could have egress only doors or
Okay.
something. But yeah, I think we'd figure that out.
Yeah, and that probably would make more sense, because that way there'd be all wall behind the.
Yeah, that, you want a good solid wall, yeah.
Yeah, no window.
For your
just the-
projector.
Just the wall with the projector.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that could work out nicely if we find the right topography and site.
Anything else, anybody? Jack?
One more question, why is that shower necessary?
It's used as a shelter, Jack.
Pardon?
Shelter. If we have an ice storm, this mass power outages, it would allow for us to use that community room as a gathering space
Okay.
for the Red Cross or whoever may need to use it.
And related to this, if you slide the community center underneath, you're gonna need additional bathrooms down there as well. So there will be some modest incremental cost.
Well, we could actually, Ryan, we can eliminate the men's and women's room, or reduce considerably that men's and women's room, because it's based on capacity of that community room.
Move some of the
So the
fixtures.
larger facilities would be downstairs, and there'd be just the basic to meet the needs of the staff and people coming in and out of the building.
Yep.
Which would open up more room in that area for storage, for relocating certain offices and making things.
Yeah, well, if you eliminated the bathrooms on that wall,
Yeah.
you could reconfigure the layout and almost get a passive solar, like you had said, windows on that whole wall, and put a majority of the offices now on that wall,
We'll flip it, yeah.
you know? And,
Yeah, this is an outside wall, you'd flip all this dark space. You know.
yeah, I'm sorry, and gain some passive solar into the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Again, you know, if you take that center section and that's all a community room, I mean, nothing says that you can't, even with the vault and the real estate, I mean, I know it's a little bit of money, but if you have the downstairs there, that you can put a bigger kitchen, you can put, you know, you can almost reduce the whole footprint of that by putting a lot of that stuff downstairs. And cost-wise, it might just, you know, be a wash.
And you don't want the cellar under the vault. The vault you want
Right.
just as right on solid ground, but you could still have the main building, the 2 stories, and still have a lot more space than what we've got there now. Well, that kind of blows that plan away.
That's true, I don't agree with that. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, I think we gotta go in this with a couple of different concepts, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
it's
Yeah.
really gonna depend on the site.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
You know,
you-
we have our flat site scheme pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Do we want to take a minute? I understand we can access Google
Yes.
and look at the two sites briefly.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Good. Because as you pointed out, one of them is much more conducive to this under-over scheme than the other.
And if you think of it, even the Limerick Road site, you could still do it and you could build the town hall, a two-story town hall, and make the real property second floor like it is now, and still be able to slide the community center under it. You know, you could still do it on a flat lot.
on a flat lot without, on a slab.
Without a
Going
daylight
two
option.
stories up.
Right.
Exactly.
Bergeron Drive, is that where you want to start? Will?
Sure.
or you-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm the two sites. I
Yeah.
think we understand
I
it.
like this.
Are there just two?
Yeah.
There are just two at the moment, yes.
I'd actually
The
like
third one is
I'd
not
actually
in
like to
place.
see more of a country
Okay.
farm look to it.
All right, I'm totally lost.
Okay.
Put in your search box.
Yeah, you're in bingo.
Search box, Bergeron Drive.
Bergeron?
Yeah, Berger. O-N.
oh,
You're
there
right.
you go, right there,
First
Bertrand
one.
Drive, Arundel.
It is right, okay, so you see the building that's listed as A, Ryan. That wooded corner, we already own that parcel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we talked about it.
Yes, exactly. And then the fielded portion, as well as the wooded portion to the right of that building has been offered for potential sale to the town. So we own, the inhabitants of the town of Arundel own, what is that house? So in a straight line here, approximately this wood line, and then you follow that straight over to this little intersection, so there's a buffer behind the Public Works building that comes somewhat like that. This is there's a fairly high knoll right in this area here.
And the property for sale is to the, is the
Field,
field,
field.
but not the frontage though.
Right, no frontage on Mountain Road.
So back here.
Right back
Yes.
there, yes.
Don't forget, there's a very large stream that goes through that middle of that section.
Man, Main Stream, but yes, there's a
No,
stream
no, what
there.
section, Tom? The field?
The section that they'll
Well, the
retain.
field too, the field's wet,
Right.
you don't want to be there.
No.
So, no,
The field's wet, but it could be easily fixed and not be wet. It's just the way that the land is set up.
we have a stream that comes in through, I'm sorry, we have a stream that comes in through this area, through there. You can see where it comes across. And
Yeah.
so the knoll's really actually opens here,
Yeah.
which has southern exposure, and then we have the southern exposure out here too.
Tad, what, if any, land is available going up above the field?
This area in here,
Yeah?
it rises gently.
Granite
It actually,
outcroppings.
yeah. there's
What's
some-
that?
There's granite outcroppings
There's some
there.
granite, and there's some, non-bird soils, of course. But there's some good spots in there, drains well. You got some good draining, and actually, the farther you go towards the east, up that knoll, the drier it gets.
The quarry property that was given to us in that is, where would that?
Can you grab and scroll down, Ryan? Yeah, keep going. All right, you see where that gravelly area is? That's the transfer station with the circle around it. That's the brush dump where that gravelly area is. It abuts that.
Okay.
That's where that 6 acres is. And where that arrow is right now, the town already owns 60 or 70 acres there, but there's the old landfill and concerns in regards to that.
That's
Access,
rough ground, that's rough ground.
that's very rough ground.
The thing about this site, and I haven't studied it yet, of course, but my thought is in that area where that knoll is down closer towards Mountain Road, that the building and the parking might consume areas that are suitable for septic systems. That's kind of my main concern about this site, is where do we do septic disposal?
Yeah, because the best site for building, is actually the best site for the septic.
Ideally, yeah, obviously, yeah. Of course, you can do that under parking lots, but
That's
it's more expensive than.
Ryan, would you like to move on to the other lot that's being considered? Or any other concerns, questions, comments on the Bergeron Drive site?
That stream would impact parking,
Yeah,
impact
there's a-
position of the building,
Yeah.
all, yeah,
You're gonna have separation between parking and
Right.
as a result.
Yeah.
Because of what now?
the stream.
There is a culverted stream, and in the front of, did you say it was about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're walking when you're walking a parcel, there's it's a man-made stream, but which has now been converted to a stream because it's been there so long that runs along here. That was an attempt to drain the lot, but it didn't quite succeed at what it wanted.
Which way is it flowing, Tom?
It is flowing towards that pond, so it's flowing from, it's flowing east, yes, that way. And Tad, correct me if I'm wrong, it stops at that pond, which is no more than 4,000 square feet. I mean, it's not a very big pond.
That's very small.
But that's why I think the entirety of the lot retains water, because there's no, it drains to there and goes nowhere else.
Just to put it out, but- And they tried, you can see evidence, they tried benching, it doesn't show up in here, unsuccessful.
And the pond is behind the farmhouse?
The pond is right where his pointer is now, Will.
Okay.
Is that the housing
Yes,
field?
it's-
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
If you enter West Lane next in Arundel.
I did.
Yeah.
That stream can be dealt with.
Yes, it can. All right, directly across the street, so directly
Right there.
right there. That field, is that Mrs. Todd's house? Okay, so there's a house there. The proposal was they would retain that house with an acre lot. And then the remainder of the 38 acres, it's a 38 acre parcel. And it kind of, the way it's skewed is actually the layout of the property. Actually, no, it's not, it's the opposite. There's a property line here that shoots this way. I'm not gonna pretend I can tell you where 38 acres of this lot is.
Okay.
And there's a tote road out in here that you can see on our maps. And then it would come to this, right here. It follows this property line. It follows this field line and then kind of jogs off this way. So it's an odd-shaped lot. That's probably 3 or 4 acres of open field, Phil.
Yeah.
And then the remainder of it, there's some wet areas in here, there's some wetlands, there's duck brook, there's possible other streams or perennial streams in there. But it's a large parcel with obviously a lot more space and potential for development. But what we're going to run into, Jason's concern already, is $1.8 million worth of development or building cost for a X amount of square foot building. And then you have the cost of purchasing that lot and site development.
But wouldn't that lot still hold a two-story building?
Oh, absolutely. It would,
If
Tad,
that-
you walk the property with me, would there be a daylight possibility on that lot? You'd have to move quite a bit
You'd have to
back.
move some more.
It's doable.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it would just be beyond that.
But it's good land over there,
It's
Yep,
good land.
and
yes.
that's good, good.
It was a lot nicer land than I thought,
Yeah,
from what I've heard of that area.
and another plus is the fact that it almost goes back to the Eastern Trail, right? There's only one lot
But not
between
between,
that and the Eastern Trail.
it comes within a stone's throw of the Kennebunk River.
Yeah.
And even if, when we were looking at it, we were kind of talking about town hall being like somewhere in this position here. I mean, Phil, this area here kind of slopes down anyway. This would be a good area right here to remove fill and put your daylight basement on this side, wouldn't it?
It would be doable right there.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a lot of
Your
expansion.
building would be a little higher,
Yeah. Yeah,
because you don't want to get down the water table,
right,
but that's very doable.
yeah.
That would be a daylight we have to create though, right, with
Correct.
retaining walls and.
And if the town were to do any more programming, if we had future needs, we have the land to do it.
Parks, walking trails.
Parks, walking trails, formal senior center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be the new town center.
And that's, I mean, in my opinion, that's the balance that we're playing with. I mean, yes, that's a considerable amount, well, not a considerable amount of money for the property that it is, but for what we have, it's a considerable amount of money. But the expansion potential and the potential for growth in the town of Arundel would be more centrally located, I believe, and that's from what I've heard from people who have asked about the 2 lots, but it's the cost differential.
That's the cost today.
That's the
I mean,
cost
that's
differential.
like this piece of land right here that the school was on.
Absolutely.
I mean, back when they were looking for a piece of land to put the school on, we had some larger lots that we could have purchased, but of course they were more money and the town wouldn't spend the money. So now you end up with a lot that all these years later isn't really big enough for expansion.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, it's happened even with the current town hall. We had the chance to buy the piece of land behind it. Oh, and they didn't do it, so there's no expansion there.
Even with a second story, even with a 2-story town hall on the current lot, that's a serious restriction. Is that a 1 or a 2 acre lot, Ted? I think it's a 1 acre lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's 1 acre lot.
Look at Friday, the tree lighting, you had to bus from the school to the fire station because you just, the safety issues.
That's the ultimate goal, is to be able to hold community functions at the town hall, to be able to have some place for people to identify with.
And to me, location is everything.
Isn't there a well in that field?
Yes.
There is, he'll be drilling another well, and there'll be, he's
That's
going to
not
drill
a-
on, that's not going to be an
It'll
issue.
go away.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll go away.
And Phil, you said that the terrain it appears flat to me, but,
It's very close to flat.
yeah. But you said towards the east side of it would be more desirable for a daylight, kind of a,
Is it lower here?
By the tree line?
is that near the tree
Slope a
line?
little bit.
Slopes that way, right?
If I remember right.
There's a very slight slope upward in that area. Not a lot,
But every foot helps. as you
2 or
know.
3 feet maybe.
Yeah, okay.
But in that case, could you actually put the town hall endwise to the Limerick Road? In other words, instead of putting the town hall facing the Limerick Road, put it endwise to the Limerick Road.
Yeah.
That would give you more,
Mhm.
more,
On a lot that size, you could orient it.
anyway, you want it, yeah.
And get all the passive solar that you're
Yeah.
looking for, and all the stuff.
Well, that's the only reason why I said if it was endwise, kind of endwise to the Limerick Road, it would give you that whole space for solar, although I'm not good with directions, but.
You got it done.
So as we develop these site plans, Ryan and I will go back and compare notes and get the trace paper out again. And so we'll come back to you with revised floor plans and site plans for each lot. Is that what you need?
I think the site plan that we just looked at isn't even big enough for today. What's it gonna be 20 and 50 years from now? We need to be looking that far ahead. And building just needs more square footage, I think.
I think what Will is asking is whether we want to develop 2 site plans for Bergeron and here, or whether constraints of Bergeron suggest that we not waste our time here. I don't
That's
know.
kind of the question. It
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
very limited,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
site.
right. That's-
And you're looking
that's what I'm
long
hearing.
range, I'm thinking it's not there.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Bergeron's too small for long range.
Yeah, no, that's, yes, Jack?
Along the same lines, and looking downstream here, and trying to address these cost issues, would it be possible to work with a developer or developers so that they absorb much of the cost of land development and can take some of that 38 acres and develop businesses that are appropriate to be around a town hall.
You wanna see some of the suggestions for our tips?
The,
Wow, you must have read that.
I did.
the intent
No, I mean, Jack must have.
Yeah.
The intent of the sale of this property to the town by this property owner is to eliminate any and all development of the property. He's had several offers for several types of development on the lot, and it came to the town's attention because he wanted to avoid that development potential. He wanted it permanently. Well, at least that was the feel I got from him, is that that was what he was.
That's what I got too.
But you would have room for recreational areas like additional ball fields later on as you clear, and, you know,
Ball field trails,
trails, things like that.
you know, that type of
Recreation
recreation.
areas.
Well, certainly looking at the size of the town, it was, what, 900 people 50 years ago, 4,000 now. It's gonna be 5,000 within 10 years, I would guess. And there's room for that kind of growth. It looks to me like you really need to look seriously at property of this size. I just personally don't see the one by the dump as a viable alternative. The question now is, how do you finance it? To make this
I
happen?
don't think we have a choice but to work with the footprint to pull money back from the building, you know? I don't think we can stick with a sprawled out footprint. Because now we're dividing it at both ends. Now you've got the increased cost of the building, you've got the increased cost of the property. There's no way we're gonna get it. I mean, to me, I think it would be best fit if these guys worked on a two-story building on both lots and see what we come up with. I think we should get away from the one-story building. I don't think we can afford it.
Is a 1.5-story building, there's the basement only halfway down, and giving window access to the basement floor, a viable option?
I think the
I
beauty
don't know
of,
that much.
if we position this building correctly on this lot, with a, I don't want to call it an underground level, but a level that is daylight,
Mhm.
allows us the ability, I think, in the future, if we ever needed to add on, to come back to the ground level and go to the back of the building,
Mhm.
For expanded.
you know. Versus a 1.5-story, now you're sold on,
Okay.
Then you're stuck with
Good point.
one.
you know,
So who's going to pony up the $500,000 to buy this?
That's a good question.
the senior citizens of,
Or-
all the retirees.
Charge admission to the community center.
So I get back to the question, do we want Jason's idea that we gotta have this 2-story building, do we want to see something on both sites, or do we want to see something just on this site as apparently the one that people see as the better of the two?
I think we owe it to the taxpayers to see it on both sides.
I agree.
Yep.
I don't think,
Yeah.
you know, I don't
Along
think
with
we
the
should.
pluses and minuses to go with both sides, so that we can tell them everything. I mean, same building on this lot is going to give us these pluses and these minuses, and that same building on this lot will give us these pluses and these minuses. Unfortunately, I have found over the years that when you do that, you probably, unless you really, really get out there and get the people all the information, that they generally will go with the cheaper option. And that will serve us for 20 years, 30 years, but it won't give us room for expansion.
And this lot may, in the long run, turn out to be the cheaper option.
Yeah.
Because if you take into consideration, well, what are the chambers called in the drive-on?
H20 loaded.
H20 loaded. By the time you create that subsurface wastewater system with a parking lot on top of it, that would be exponentially more expensive than subsurface here with a parking lot. So it could end up, even though there's more cost in purchasing this parcel, it's cheaper to develop.
Could
to
be cheaper
develop
in the
than,
long run.
And if you wanna put fields on there down the road, it's pretty much already flat, and I mean, you could, you know, we had attempted a while back, years ago, to put a field in another spot, and we just did it with volunteers, and I mean, the spot was just so much clay that we couldn't do it, but Parham's property on the corner there, we tried to do that one time, and it just got too clay, and it didn't work, but this is something that, you know, a bunch of folks can get together and cheaply put a ball field, you know, and with limited amount of money. I mean, with the other site, I like the other site, but I don't know if there's a whole lot of room there, and you don't want to get into a site where you gotta go clear a whole bunch of trees to put some ball fields, because then it gets even more expensive, and the little leagues and those folks, they don't have the money to do that, and I don't think they'll ever have the money to do that.
And we don't know if there's clay on that other lot where we know there's one. I mean, I know she's had a garden there for years, so,
You can see it actually
It's pretty.
still. right there.
yeah.
So this,
Yeah, that was the old garden. And somewhere in that is the border of the edge of the clay, from what I've been told. Is that, no, that, somewhere in this area is where that deep rift of clay ends, and there's actually some usable under subsurface.
Now, if you're talking about fields, the fields behind the school, right here, were very similar to the wooded area you're looking at there when they started. And that was all done very inexpensive.
Is there potential access to the eastern trail
If
from
we-
this lot?
We could possibly gain an easement across the parcel that would take us to the eastern trail. If you look, it falls short of the trail a few hundred yards at that brook. So there'd be a stretch there that there would need to be an easement, because that's a different property owner. But I think it could be negotiated.
Don't we have a good end then?
Oh, we do. Nice guy, too.
We'll slip him a few quarters.
Okay. Put me down on the record.
Yeah.
Strike that, Dan.
Take it off the camera.
Yeah.
I do have one more question. What bonding term can a municipality have for a project like this?
30 year.
30 years?
Yeah.
So
I
you're
don't believe it'd
talking-
be necessary. To be honest with you, there is potential to rearrange capital expenditures to be able to maintain a mill rate and do a project like this in shorter than a 30-year term.
So that even in 20 years, you're saying the cost really would be negligible per year?
We could make it negligible without seriously affecting municipal services. I strongly believe that. I cannot, I told this to the budget board the other night, there's no way that I can absorb any educational costs. What I'm speaking of is the municipal portion of the mill rate could
Yes, I
maintain it
understand.
very, very close to where it is and still make a project like that happen.
Well, that's a major consideration too.
Up to 30 years. And there is potential, if we're servicing the senior community, addressing handicap issues, there's federal monies that may or may not be available. They slip away every year, but you know, there's always that hope that you can find some sort of federal program that is willing to offer money for a project like this.
Same with recreation, I believe if any of the trail, accessing the trail, I believe there's some federal, yeah, but there are
But you
federal
can't get money for
recreational.
parking lots.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
We tried every which
We're
way.
trying to make it into a grass trail, big
Yeah.
grass trail.
Yeah.
It could be a parking ride, there might be money there, but where are you gonna ride to? You park there.
But in this case, there would be parking because the parking would be at the town hall.
Yeah.
So there would be plenty of parking.
Okay. Anything else, folks?
Any questions from Will and Ryan?
Did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I think, the consensus of the board, you want Both sites evaluated, that's what I hear.
Thank you.
Time to start from scratch.
Yeah.
That's what Ryan's thinking, right?
Yeah.
The look of the building, I think, is ideal for this town, though.
All right, there we go.
I don't think it's over the top, and I think it's, very down to earth. It looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
Right, Dave?
Yeah.
yeah, you all.
That's awesome.
I'll call you in the morning.
Okay, let me move on to our town planner, talk about TIF dollars.
We're down to, we'll go that town manager, town planner, the TIF.
Yeah.
Right below.
D.
D. We just didn't see how much it was.
So as we move forward with the seasonal cottages tip, and I realize we had a discussion about the utility tip, we're trying to capture some more value in that district to make it a little bit more beneficial to the fire department, to make that work. So that has risen to this level yet. Tad and I have just been, this, in a perfect world, you build out the entirety of your Arundel seasonal cottages, and that's quite an influx of revenue into the town's coffers to do some, basic and some major economic development. And Tad and I bounce ideas off of each other that range from conservative to absolutely asinine. I mean, just trying to think of ways to...
Unusual.
Yeah, okay, unusual. Tad has summarized, did I say that out loud? Tad has summarized some of what we've discussed. These numbers aren't set in stone, and it's my understanding that you spoke to Barry today, and he may have updated you on some of these numbers. Keeping in mind that if we do move forward with the TIF, the town gives it its blessing. These need to be in our TIF plan. They don't all need to be completed. We can revise what we're going to do with our revenues in the TIF, but we can't add things that aren't there already. And that's kind of where we're trying to get a gauge of the selectmen as to how off the wall some of these ideas are, if there's things that are glaring that we're not considering, or if, we're looking to give a straight property tax reduction to the taxpayers in whichever manner we can through this TIF process, to just try to reduce the residential property tax burden. There's some great ideas in here, there's some great potential when it comes to natural gas, when it comes to, lighting and sidewalks, and I cringe at the term business park. It just doesn't ring well in my mind. There's going to be a better way to put that. Well, I guess it isn't better than an industrial park, Ted, so I appreciate you doing that. But there are there's going to be a considerable amount of money that would allow us to do a considerable amount of expansion to allow business uses to come into the Route 111 corridor, if that would be. But
isn't, you're talking about the seasonal cottages?
yes.
But isn't that TIF is to benefit them, not benefit us?
Half of that would benefit them. It would be a 51-49 split. They would get a 49% rebate, where they pay their taxes and we give half of them back. The other half would go into a municipal TIF account to allow us to do infrastructure projects. So the town would be gaining full build out, perfect world, this project is running and humming and doing a great job. We look at about $10 to $12 million in municipal revenue that could be spent on these projects. We would be refunding 10 to 12 million to the developer, but that sheltered money, if it's used for specific purposes, remains sheltered, and it allows the town to invest in infrastructure, invest in development. So we will be retaining about 51% of that TIF amount in revenues.
And can that be used to reduce the mill rate?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, you will lose your exemption status. So in other words, whatever revenues that you are going to return to the general fund will not be counted, will be counted in all of the calculations for revenue sharing, for county tax, and for school portion. So you're not gonna shelter that money. Remember, one of the advantages of the TIF is those monies, those captured revenues, those captured value, is sheltered from inclusion in those calculations, which over time, $10–12 million off our valuation for county tax, for also for a school apportionment, and also for the revenue sharing, especially in highways, that can really add up to some savings for us. You will surrender that. If we don't use it for economic development purposes, you surrender that tax share. So,
When?
it's a question.
When?
When you decide to refund the money and not use
If
it
you
for
put
one
money
of
in
the
the
shelter
general
purposes.
fund, then every year we have
So
to.
if we just hold it out and we don't do anything with it for a time, it's still sheltered dollars.
Yeah.
Still sheltered
Still
until you
sheltered.
decide, we're gonna put that in the general fund, and we're gonna reduce the tax rate, and then you get penalized on the reductions that you've gotten on the.
Does that happen during the TIF, or when the TIF comes to completion and then they penalize you?
No, it's during the TIF, because we have to make an annual report to the state.
So in that 30
We list
years,
all of our values, our captured values for that year, and we show which ones we're using for the fund and which ones that we're returning to the general fund. So it's an annual thing. So it's not like a tax penalty on farmland or open space.
So we could do, you could put a little bit into the general fund to help with the mill rate, and then you know, another percentage to do some capital expenditures or improvements or what have you.
How, and I don't want to sound stupid, but how do you protect Arundel as a community for fear that this thing went south halfway through? So now we've expended this money on, let's say, running sewer up Route 1, and 5 years into it, this project goes south, nobody's buying cottages, we've already began production of the sanitary system. If they're not allowing us to create a safety fund with our TIF, for fear of that, how do you, is there a way to do that? Or
Well,
is
you
it-
could do that. I mean, it's a question of to bond or not to bond. This is the question you really ask. Do you spend your money, do you spend the money incrementally as you receive it, or do you bond in anticipation of receipt? That's the question you're asking.
you could accumulate it for a 5-year, 10-year period. I believe they've eliminated, it used to be 2 years, you had to start doing something. Now you can accumulate those funds, because I wouldn't recommend, it's going to be an incremental increase.
Yeah.
The value's not all there at once.
Yeah.
I would recommend that we accumulate, and when you see phase 4 start taking off, and they're selling like hotcakes, then the town says, okay, we're now at a point where we.
So that can be done without penalty then?
Absolutely.
Oh, all right,
Absolutely.
all right.
Yeah, yeah, so you can save your money
Okay.
and spend it slowly, or wait till it's there.
And their portion of the TIF, that remains sheltered?
Yeah.
Okay.
That-
So
that portion will stay.
That stays sheltered.
Yeah,
so.
let's say shelter. So it's a question of how much do you want to do. And I'll give you an example. The Kennebunk TIF that they're doing for their CMP, they have a substation, which is worth about $9 million, so they have a lot of funds. They're returning, I think, about 40% into the general fund for taxpayer. So, but the rest of it, they're dedicating it to various uses.
Yeah.
I mean, and at full build-out, we're looking at, all else remaining constant, of 15 to 18% in municipal valuation. And it's a $60 million project. The town's worth $309 million. So we're looking at a considerable increase in our valuation by this one project reaching fruition. And then at the end of that TIF, that is when, and I'm not gonna lie to you, revenue sharing, I don't hold my breath, so I don't know how much of a shelter that's going to be. It's dwindling away year by year. We'll see half of what we saw last year this year, and they're threatening we'll see half of what we see this year next year. Hopefully the Maine Municipal Association and the legislature are gonna get the word out to protect those funds, but that isn't the biggest part of it. It's educational funding, and that's the state formula. That's not our local formula, because that was taken into consideration during the cost-sharing agreement rearrangement. So it would come from the state appropriations for funding, not any local. So, but it's still a big chunk of, good-sized chunk of money.
I have a question. Why are you looking at sewer only from the Kennebunk line to the campground road? And
We had that
not
conversation
taking,
today.
yeah, not taking it down to the cottages?
Well, that's phase two, yeah. We initially did it that way because it was a cost factor, quite frankly. We're putting a lot of emphasis on doing high-density development from essentially campground down to, campground road down to the river. And so that's the place where we need it the most, and we're gonna try to concentrate a lot of business, especially in the back lands. So we felt we'd get the most bang for the buck down in that particular area. Also, there were fewer constraints when it came to actual construction of the sewer line. The soils there are much better than they are in the northern part of Route 1, where you're gonna run into ledge or wetlands. But, you're right, Velma, because the place that needs it the absolute most is the northern section. So it's a very legitimate point. I didn't do it because I thought the cost would be much higher than it would for this section. This section, actually the costs I've got are actually a little bit inflated. It's actually more around 1.7 million to probably about 2.5. No pump stations. You don't have to do a pump station, you do a deep.
And that was the conservative that we were speaking of earlier, Velma, is that fortunately, Seasonal Cottages is planning on building a 55,000 square foot disposal site on site. So they're not telling us we're not coming if we don't build sewer. If that was the case, it would be a non-starter because we'd need to spend that $6 million to get from the Kennebunk River all the way to the lot. That's where we have to bond, and we're assuming they're gonna do that project and build it fully. This, since we can save the money, would allow us to slowly extend that. Dad spoke to Kennebunk Sewer District and accidentally the Port Sewer District today, and they both seem very interested. So it's something that...
They're not adverse.
Right, they're not against. They're considering options. Kennebunk Sewer District is considering options right now, and that was interesting to them.
And that
we
was my
do
next
that
question.
Slowly.
If we say, oh yeah, we're gonna bring sewer from the Kennebunk River to the campground road, well, that's fine, but what's it gonna hook to at the Kennebunk River? Are they going to, yeah,
Well, if we want to go that way, very honestly, obviously we have to negotiate with this. They're a separate sewer district. They would have to, their board of directors has to vote. There's no guarantees on this at all. And of course, because they're a district created by the legislature, they would have to change their charter with the legislature. But they're looking at doing that anyways because they want to go out to West Kennebunk. So that's a different situation. If we wanted to even do this along Log Cabin Road, because we've been talking about putting in another business district on Log Cabin Road. I talked to Kennebunkport, and they're looking at extending up North Road. So they're kind of interested in what we do. They have some limitations on their capacity, but they'd be willing to talk. And as you know, Kennebunkport is looking at their side of Log Cabin Road is maybe expanding and changing the zoning in their district to do what we're doing. So we would do it as sister communities and having a coherent district, zoning district. There would probably be smaller businesses.
And as Tad and I have discussed this, I'm gonna bring it up. We talked about the idea of putting in a drop-in sewer treatment plant of our own and to create our own sewer district near the river in Arundel so that we can service ourselves. The engineer's opinion of that is the permitting process is pretty ridiculously exhaustive, and chances of getting that permit could possibly be slim to none.
Well, he's improved.
Well, maybe not slim to none, but they were, they weren't the
because that
greatest.
river doesn't have enough flow down to the Drell Bridge, does it, to do that?
Well, yeah, it's not so much flow, it's gonna be the treatment level that you do, and everything's pretty much tertiary at this point. You use membranes now, and the technology's changed quite a bit from what it used to be. And, but there's the cost, and there's costs involved, there's personnel costs. Now you're gonna have to have sewer operators out there. And the issue is, I haven't had our engineers take a look at that possibility, because quite frankly, I'd rather exhaust the Kennebunk connection or the Biddeford connection before I want to start talking about our own drop in the sewer treatment plant. But, if we wanted to, if we had investigated, let's say, the potential of doing, of buying that property on Limerick Road and changing the zoning and making that a development area and having that the center for a sewer treatment plant, that potential's there, but the costs are gonna be significant. Plus, you gotta run a line all the way out to Route 1 from Limerick Road. That's a lot of money to spend just getting to the target area, so.
And it's a lot easier to cross the Kennebuck River than it is to cross the railroads. With
You can.
coming from the city of Biddeford, we discussed, early on here, that was something that the city of Biddeford had spoken to me when I came on board, and, you know, was there that interest? At that point, I said, at this point, I don't believe so, but that was their concern as well, is that we have a railroad overpass crossing, and it's difficult to deal with that.
Because everyone wants you to jack underneath the tracks.
How does Biddeford do it? They're on Route 111.
On Route 111, I'm not sure.
Because they come up past, like the High Point Shopping Center
Right.
and go over the railroad.
Right.
They go up the tracks,
I
right?
don't think they do.
No, I think
Really?
it goes out.
They stop at the 5 Point Shopping Center, and the Route 111 goes by the turnpike to the railroad, and then it takes a left turn down the old Eastern Trail,
Really?
down to Main Street, and they have a pump station down there. When they get down to Main Street in Biddeford, they may have crossed under the tracks.
Under the tracks.
Yeah, it's
Must have all those properties there on Main Street, you know, the high school and all of those, that's all sewer, right? So
That's also, yeah,
Right.
into that line I just talked about.
Wow.
That's gonna go under the track.
So that's what they want. They want everything to go under the tracks.
They don't want to hang.
They don't like anything hanging over the tracks. Although, very honestly, we're working on the Eastern Trail, we're working on doing a pedestrian overpass. You know, at Rigby Yard, Rigby Yard's a real problem area, and they weren't adverse to going up and over, but they wanted 20 feet clearance. So, that's their standard, is 20-foot clearance.
From the top of the highest.
They consider that to be the safest, you know, when they have double stacks,
Yeah.
which I haven't seen them run double stacks ever, but. you know,
They do
two
everywhere, yeah, they
trails
do
on top of
everywhere
each
else.
other, you know.
Yeah. I've never seen one here that I've
I
seen
haven't either.
elsewhere.
Exactly. I haven't seen B&M carry them at all, so.
So getting back to this, the list here that you guys have created, this is something you have to submit with the application, or,
We have to come up with a program of what we intend to put the money into.
and,
That doesn't mean it can't change, but we've gotta have something to show that we're actually gonna be using the funds, our portion of the captured revenues, for the stated purposes of the entire program, which is economic development. So we have to show economic development programs that we consider to be vital, that will be, these funds will be channeled into, because that meets the objective of the TIP, is that these monies continue to support and promote economic development in the state.
and you said you can't add to this list once you've submitted it?
We can amend.
Oh,
We gotta have something that, if we're gonna say we're gonna take all of the money and, all of our portion of the money and use it for economic development purposes, we're gonna have to show that we have programs that do that. Whether we do that or not, whether we change it or not, is, you know, something that can be done later on. And in terms of our proportion of monies that we keep, if we were to take out a piece for taxpayer relief, for instance, we need to establish that now. We can't do it later. We really shouldn't. No, we can do it by default, but we should state it up front.
the default means you don't do a project.
Right. And we need to do this for, you know, because we have to give them our list, and they have to approve the type of uses we're going to do. I should also say, if I may, that some of this stuff can be leveraged by other grant monies. That, especially when we get down to sewer, frankly speaking, you know, the sidewalks, a couple other things in here, we can leverage some of this with EDI, CDBG monies, Safe Routes to School. Give you a good example, Town of Herman did a downtown revitalization plan in which they put in sidewalks in their town. Safe Routes to School gave me $500,000 for their investment of $100,000, so it was a good grant for them anyways. So there are monies out there that could leverage our monies, so if we wanted to expand it more, we might be able to do that.
Oh, I'd love to see a bicycle sign on every road in town. I mean, our road in the summertime is terrible, terrible.
Well, I think we can
We
find
went on
out.
the sidewalk down to the Eastern Trail from the town.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we've approached Dan about that several times.
Well, you know,
And-
frankly speaking, if we wanted to do that, I mean, that's eligible for Safe Routes to School. It's just, you know, the next round is until next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we will do that, but we do have to pick up 20% of the cost. Technically, we don't have to pick up anything, we can get a straight grant.
Mm.
But you know what, that's what they say. You want about a 20%, match on that, or 10%. You need to put something in.
does it have to go from the school to the Eastern Trail?
No, it just has to be 2 miles from the school.
Yeah.
It is. And it is, we've already done measurements, so.
Okay, so what do you need from us?
We just needed to hear whether or not any of the ideas that we proposed you thought were crazy, out of the scope of possibilities. You know, some of the more far-fetched ones,
They sand and gravel.
Yeah.
It's intriguing
Yeah.
to me.
and
That's, actually, I have some other proposals
yeah,
on
there's a
that.
different proposal on that.
I like the idea of gas on 111 because of Kate's Butter and the shopping mall down there.
Yep.
They would both hook on, I'm sure, and Kate's has already looked into doing their own pressure reduction facility, and it was out of the realm of their cost.
2.5
It was like,
plus.
yeah, $1.5 million.
Yep.
They were quoted with the possibility of more. If we went that way, they may be willing to contribute a fair amount, because they wanted it pretty badly. They looked into it. Chris did, seriously.
By the time we do something like that, though, wouldn't Kate's already be established and, because they're not set up for gas now, right?
They are set up on propane tanks right now. And I guarantee you, well, I think guarantee you, I'm 100% certain if there was a pressure reduction facility nearby, they would jump on
Yeah,
board
I
to
know
have
Chris
it.
talked about it.
I know they would.
A couple of times.
And I'm almost certain that if there were a reduction station there, City of Biddeford would be more than happy to carry it from the line, from the end of from the town line to the Home Depot and the entirety of the
Yeah.
Market Basket complex. And that was the constraint of that lot, was crossing the turnpike.
Yeah.
Or, over, or, well, you can't go over, you have to go under the turnpike, and it was prohibitively expensive, and I think that would be an end user that would make someone think about this project.
So are those
Yeah.
buildings over there set up for that today?
They're on propane. That entire complex is run on propane.
It's not hard to switch over that.
Biddeford Crossing's propane?
The Mullahs is propane. They really were the ones who were pushing for you to tell the one on the turnpike and you to tell refused.
Showing your age tags, Market Basket.
Right. Sorry. It's the Mullahs Market Basket.
Yeah, that's right.
We remember who started.
Yeah.
Some of us older guys.
But there have been conversations with Wayne Perry and Dayton Sand and Gravel that he would be interested in financing something to get natural gas out there as well, because his use is.
He would get on board.
He's got a ridiculous amount of use there. We just don't have the population density other than those end users that could attract a serious enterprise.
The other option would be also making a vaporization station, in which then you basically fill up portable tanks, they're like, and you're basically like trailers, and move them to the site, and they basically are fitted just to plug right into the site, and when, it's like a giant propane bottle, and then when you're ready, you just ask for another trailer, and they bring another trailer, and so instead of having to put in the line all the way, you basically have a line of trailers that you put.
You've got to include some fire money if you're gonna get into
Oh,
vaporization
absolutely.
of
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, there's another.
You've seen those videos.
helicopters and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the downside.
Would that not be a bad idea where the CMP TIF isn't as much as we anticipated? Maybe drag some fire into this TIF? And then
You
reduce the cost
certainly
of,
have to.
you know, I forget how many units are at the cottages.
59.
You know, we're gonna get some ambulance calls and fire calls out of that.
Actually, if you put the station up in, if you were to put the station up on Maritime's land,
That would
it's automatically.
That's a utility TIF
So
already.
you
so
have
that
a
would
$2
go
million
directly.
facility and a $2 million evaluation of the CMP TIF district.
On what land?
Well, if you put it-
Maritime's Northeast owns that corridor that runs with the CMP utility.
They share
lines
that-
out
they
there.
share
that. Oh, they share that.
They share that right of way.
Because I believe the Bedford pressure station, that's that's entirely in their easement,
Yeah.
on the Unitil pressure station.
But if there's anything that you folks, a lot of you have been in town longer than Ted and I, if there's anything that you haven't seen there or anything that you see there that you think is absolutely ridiculous, keeping in mind that this will be put into the application, I've reached out to used to be Southern Maine Regional Planning Council, now it's Southern Maine Regional Development Corporation. I believe they've changed their name because they've stopped taking as much funding, to try to get them to review what Jim is proposing for us on their behalf, so that we can come back and say, this is what we want on our behalf. And an amendment requires a revote. So anything that's changed after they vote on a TIF application, after the town has voted on it, if we decide to change anything, we have to go back to vote to get that approved.
Town vote.
Town vote, yeah, special
By
town
the
meeting.
legislative body.
Well, if you're gonna leave the state and sand and gravel in here, you might wanna make that Route 111 instead of Route 11.
Oh, wow, that's a long line then.
I thought it covered a lot more bases than that.
Alfred, Sanford, Little Line.
I would like to say something about the municipal business park, though. One of the things that I think Tom brought that up while we were discussing this with Will and Chris. Well, there is always a potential, if none of these sites really meet our needs, if we were to use these monies for site development, site acquisition and development for the town hall, and it wouldn't be for the town hall, it would be for building an industrial park, which, communities do left and right all the time. You can get EDI money to leverage that too. But, we could use that land, take a portion of that land and build a town hall on there. And then go into a partnership with the developer to do the rest of the stuff and use these monies for that purpose of creating a business park. It also opens up some other potential areas that we haven't thought about, or we don't have the money to consider thinking about, and that might even be in along Route 1 or Route 111. I would say Route 1, since that's our primary business district right now. So if there were properties out there that we want to take a look at, where we become basically the catalyst for developing a town business park along Route 1, plunk our building in there, to meet our needs, and still develop a business park around that, we could use the monies for that. That might be a way of financing the land costs that we're concerned about. So there's option 3, for the 2 options you were looking at. And there are a number of pieces of land, as we well know, that are out there, about 30, 40, 50 acres that are along Route 1 in various locations that could do that.
Between the Kennebunk River and the Campground Road?
Yep.
Between the Kennebunk River and the Campground Road, if you want to keep it limited to that, it's probably a more conducive location.
Yeah, 'cause
Let's say up towards Enterprise Drive in that area. That's
If you think back on it, you can think of a specific lot.
Mm-hmm. I can, one comes right to mind.
And
Yeah.
he and I have had a conversation several times about that potential. That lot is for sale.
That lot is for sale.
Owner is interested in selling.
So is it worth getting the 2 propositions already that we're looking at?
Well, we can't, in my opinion, it's going to be an uphill battle to get this TIF approved from what the pulse of the community I've gotten in the time that I've been here. I think we can do it right, and I think it's in the benefit of the town. We just have to make sure that everybody is informed and on board with what's going on here. And then it would be a lot more exciting than just looking at it on paper and saying we possibly could do this.
Well, I think when you show people that, when you look at this and you show people the numbers, and the numbers show, all right, if we don't do this, if we just let them go, their own merry little way, we're gonna collect this amount and this amount. But if we work with them with the TIF, we're gonna be collecting this amount, and then we're gonna be getting this amount. And it's going to be a much bigger benefit to us in the end. And we're going to have to show that in order to let people know.
Well, it's better than that. They said they're not gonna do the project unless they get $7 million of the TIF.
That's right.
So it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So it's the old half a loaf is better than no
That's
loaf.
exactly right.
Well, yeah.
I think they're right. I don't think they will. I honestly do, Dan.
That
'Cause
prop-
they've lost a lot of time.
And that property's been sitting there a long time, just sitting there, so,
With approvals in place.
yeah.
With the rules in place, and they've also made some investments.
Yeah.
They made those investments in that water, into that pump station. That was not cheap.
So Ted, you said earlier that you're trying to capture more value,
In the CMP TIF
and
district,
how are you trying to do that?
by enlarging the district to include Kate's Butter, which would gain another $700,000 in valuation for that district, at least,
Yep, it's about 700.
which would return more funds to the fire station to try to ease that cost.
And I'd
So those
like-
capital needs still remain, regardless of what.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd like to move forward with what Jason has suggested, take some of that fire stuff and put it into this.
I would, there's only one problem with that. The problem that I have with taking it from this one is not my problem, it's the state's problem. Because remember, the CMP district, the logic that we're using to use it for fire, is we're saying, we don't have the ability to protect this investment. We don't have the equipment to protect the investment that CMP and Maritimes has up there. So that's why we're using those captured values to buy the equipment, training, and,
But there are some things on that list that really were kind of stretched a little bit.
But that's
I don't know what you're talking
that- yeah.
Put that on this one.
I gotta learn how to edit these videos. So with the CMP TIF, we're justifying it because we need that stuff.
Right.
We can't use that. We can use it to a certain extent for seasonal cottages, but not necessarily. If it were a age-restricted community, if it were an assisted living type community, we can directly correlate those numbers to say there's going to be X amount of impact on EMS. It would be a tough sell to the state to say this seasonal cottage TIF needs a helicopter for the other end of town, or, that we just need to toe that fine line to make sure that we're,
Seasonal cottages, though, it's a direct access to Eastern Trail.
yes.
I think we could easily sell a UTV with trailer
Okay,
through seasonal cottage for access on Eastern Trail. I can understand the brush truck
Yep.
for CMP.
well, I'm basically telling the state that we need the UTV for the CMP easement. Because that reinforces the idea that you can't get your guys out there. You can't do a cold weather rescue out there without that UTV with tracks on it. And you can't fight a fire out there that's burning a pole without having that UTV in the brush truck.
If one of those poles are on fire, nobody's going in that.
no way.
They don't know that.
Yeah.
Fire.
Need the UTV to go look at it.
Right, no, they don't. It's to do the size up.
Well,
I can see that cause and effect there. But I'm also wondering if perhaps because of the seasonal cottages, we may very well, especially in the summertime when they're in full swing, need perhaps additional personnel. If we need additional personnel, we may need a bigger building to house additional personnel, so that perhaps we could put an enlargement of the fire station on there. And that way get, if town hall's not there, and we could get their other bay that they need, and with the exhaust system.
I'd love to do that, but public facilities are not.
That's not part of it. Oh,
Yeah.
what was the thought?
But I could.
Sorry,
do it.
Jason,
See,
I
no,
tried.
no, the thing is, this is why we made that proposal maybe to include Kate's in this, is because with the CMP TIF, we can. We can do that expansion of the firehouse with the CMP TIF, because that thing's focused on saying we need fire safety, fire protection. You're gonna buy this equipment, where are we gonna put it?
We're gonna
Oh, we
have to
gotta
put-
expand the firehouse to be able
We
to put it
don't
in
need
there.
an expansion of the fire station, we really don't. If we are buying new equipment for the fire station, we're eliminating equipment at the fire station now. We
Good
don't
point.
need a bigger fire station.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, if that was a priority, then that's what the argument we would make.
Well, Ted, they haven't shot us and thrown us out of the room. We've read everything that's in front of them. I think we've gotten our direction and we're
Well,
going
the
to.
question is, what priority, is there a priority? Is there a priority as far as this?
I just think the sewer system, to me, I mean, to me, that sewer system is something that, I mean, we've been working for years and wanting to get, number one, we wanted to get water along Route 1, finally did, and sewer along Route 1. I mean, at least that's a start. To me, that's my idea.
I've never gotten a feel from the board. I hear it a lot from different interests. What's the thought on Route 1 lighting? Is the board in favor of that? The argument can be made that Route 1 is lit up from Fort Lauderdale to Madawaska, but not Arundel. So,
We can sleep.
Yeah,
if there were lights on Route 1, Tom, you'd still be able to sleep.
yeah,
I might be able to.
yeah,
There's so much light pollution now, it's unbelievable.
yeah.
I mean, light up Route 1, I don't know. Maybe there's safety reasons to that, I'm sure there are, but
I think that there are lights, I mean, we have enough lights along Route 1, we have them at all the intersections, the businesses all have lights. It's not as though Route 1 is dark.
Some people think it is.
really.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Some people agree.
Why,
Yeah,
it's
really.
not, it
This
isn't
is
dark
noontime
sections.
all the way?
Yeah, there
There's
are.
definitely some really dark.
Yes, there
Yeah,
are.
there's a couple of sections that are very, very dark, but
Yeah, but you're only talking between the campground road and the Kennebunk Brook.
those are sections that are really dark, sections of Route 1 that are not really developed that much.
Yeah.
It's a rural road, basically.
Well, when the seasonal cottages, if and when they begin their improvements, that's one of the things they're going to have to do anyway, is illuminate that section of Route 1, which will carry out. But it's something to consider.
Actually, the plans don't call for much illumination in that area.
You know, making.
And when, when it comes to sidewalk, I know Tad is a big fan of sidewalk, that brings in that village atmosphere but
I'd rather see a bike path.
exactly,
The width
I'd
of
rather
the
see it a
sidewalk
wider shoulder for a bike
for a
path
bike path.
than having
Bicycles only.
sidewalks.
A bike path with lights.
Yeah.
Actually, you know
Right
what?
in the road, they just follow.
LEDs in the
In the
asphalt.
road, exactly.
Actually, I could show you exactly that up in Raymond, along 302. They did exactly that.
Yeah.
They made a little 5-foot bike path, which is also a sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's bituminous, and they have little bagel lights, little shepherd hook lights. Not very expensive, probably $500 units, aluminum. And looks great.
It's on
People
the
love
same
it.
level as the road,
Yep.
so
They've
that
got
when
an
you plow
esplanade.
it, you don't
They've
have to
got-
have a little frickin' rink to go down there and plow it. You
They
can-
have an esplanade there, so you can put a place to put snow. It's pretty good, it's actually pretty cute, it does well, and it's not very costly, that's the big thing.
This
But on the other side of that coin is every time you install lights, you pay annual
Oh, yeah.
and monthly
Oh, yeah.
electric
Oh,
bills.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
It's a cost.
the TIF might take care of the funding of the installation, but the taxpayers ultimately have to pay the monthly electric bill. So, that's also something that.
That's where it started the argument in our own sewer district, because we do those extensions and we're just handing the revenue over to a different sewer district. So they are obviously interested in doing such a thing because it
Do
increases
they
their
bill
revenue
for,
stream.
like a tax bill for sewer?
Sewer, well, yeah.
Yeah. But we wouldn't have the costs either, because they have all the costs. The same way with the water, we have no cost, I mean, yes, we pay for our own hydrants, but other than that, water district covers everything else. If you wanna put water into your house, You do it with the water district. So we
No
have
cost
no
to
cost there.
taxpayer. So, I'm getting a feeling I'm not feeling the love on the lights.
Yeah,
I didn't feel it either.
and I think the sidewalks just became a bike path.
So done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say bike path on the application.
Oh,
No,
okay.
because they don't get excited about bike paths.
No, but
So,
what do they call that
Gotta be older.
expanded side of the road?
Widen shoulder.
yeah.
Widen shoulder, yes.
He's gonna call it a sidewalk.
Yes,
He is gonna call it a
That
sidewalk.
I'm gonna call it, I want to get this thing approved.
Justify it all day long.
I mean, it's one thing to get it through town meeting, it's another thing to make sure the state approves it. Remember that, they are looking at this application as an application, so you do have to play by the game.
And I'd love to see natural gas go down 111 at least from there, because if we could get it into the shopping center down there, I think that it might help to negate any cost that we might have of putting it through, or at least some of it.
How does that benefit us?
Well, if you take it out to the exponential level and say we had our own gas utility, we'd make all kinds of money on that. Well, not all kinds of money, it'd be quite a return, but, leverage to bring in a developer who may want to provide that with the opportunity for natural gas, residential costs go down considerably. You're potentially increasing business development, because once you have the ability to offer natural gas.
But that's just on a small section though, right? That's
Right,
just-
well, at that,
That's
yes.
a very, very small section of Route 111.
But it's a start.
It's closer to my house,
It's a
man.
start.
Closer to my
And the
house.
closer to his house it gets, the closer to my house.
It's a start.
We barely own 3 miles on Route 111.
Right.
So, it's like getting your foot in the door. It's like getting started.
But I think it's the wrong section to do it. I think that's a waste of money right there.
Dave, do you
Wrong
agree
section of
that
road to do it.
the Unitil would be a good area to do it?
Route 1?
Would be,
Be a lot more money.
it'd be a lot more money, but
But if you had it,
a
Well,
lot more
pressure station
potential with
less.
that line.
absolutely.
Pressure station would be less because it's a smaller line.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
But remember, when you're looking at that, add the pressure station,
Right.
and that didn't hit that against.
Alright. I think we've got our marching orders, Ted. We've got a lot on our plate coming up here, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are. Essentially, this is a question,
Expert on.
what do you want to bring how much investment?
We're working on that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I was sure in the first instance that this is
Exactly. Yes.
Never mind.
benefit to us. Okay, where do we leave off here? I guess committee and board reports.
Economic Development Committee meets tomorrow night at 6 PM here, actually in the conference room, there's a conflict of the library. Planning board meets Thursday the 19th at 7 in the library.
And then the new business is to authorize addendum to the contract for the town hall space needs analysis provided by Sedago Technics for the proposal that we were supplied, the we were supplied.
Yes, $2,500 if there's 2 sites, $3,500 if there are 3 sites, is what Will's proposed for schematics and all the work.
I think we agreed on 2 sites, is that what I heard? Okay.
I mean, there isn't any other pieces of property that are propped up.
Nothing that's feasible at this time.
Okay, so we
Need
need
a
a
motion for that?
motion to authorize that addendum.
So moved. Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Now we need to authorize the funding for the contract addendum.
School building reserve.
I need a motion to authorize the withdrawal of what, $2,500?
That is correct. At the time, as the services are rendered.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Form the selectmen of timeline in regards to potential special town meeting votes for CMP, utility TIF, as well as the Arundel Seasonal Cottages TIF.
The latest that we could hold the vote on the TIFs If we're gonna do it on a regularly scheduled selectmen's meeting, would be February 18th. And that's why Tad and I have got quite the timetable ahead of us. But I think we can do it successfully. The developers are meeting with CMP, with the Chamber of Commerce to get their word out. We're going to take what we've gotten today, get it into an application over to the consultant to let us know what we're missing of what they proposed, so we can come back to you and say, what is the benefit to the town officially should this be approved? We need to do it by February, well, we would need to, application has to be in the state by March 1st, correct that, or is it March 31st?
We have to make a decision before April 1st.
Okay.
So March 31st.
All right, so February, end of February is getting close to where we would need to sign the warrant. That's what I meant to say. Sign a warrant to have a public hearing, which Arundel Seasonal Cottages individuals will attend, as well as Tad and I, and possibly somebody from the consulting firm that's working on our behalf, to give all of the information to all the members of the public. Everything will be posted on the website. Possibly try to have 2, if not 3, public meetings to try to reach out to the largest group of the public as we can. We would send a mailing in the form of an arrow informing people as much as possible, as much as we can do in an issue of the arrow to inform them of that, to try to get that word out, so that it's going to be all about PR. It's going to be all about stopping that one person to do a frantic last-minute phone telethon and say this is the worst thing in the world. We need to get that word out there. So we're looking end of February, drop dead deadline to sign that warrant, to be able to start having hearings and get this thing passed into the state so that we beat their application deadline.
Do you think it would, I'm sorry, do you think it would be a good idea to maybe do an arrow in January to kind of just give people an idea what even tips are? And, kind of a basic, basic education thing on possibilities of what they can do for the town as well, and then follow up by the stuff for the town needs. I'm just afraid that if you wait and just send one out with just the information, it's going to be too little, too late. I think.
Maybe these are wildly misunderstood.
Exactly.
Somebody just starts saying, well, everything's going to the developer without understanding we're still getting tax dollars.
And continue getting tax dollars after the TIF's over.
Correct.
When would this go for vote in the town?
It would have to be in March at a special town meeting.
So there's no way we can wait for this till the regular town meeting?
No, because we'll meet the state's application deadline, and it'll put us another year out.
Here we go again with, the same arguments that could be made, that were made for the RSU. I see this is drawing even less people, and we're spending this money for a town, for a special meeting that really, I think hardly anybody is.
We've got a terrible expense of open town meeting. It's not like,
What's that?
the expense of just an open town meeting is nowhere near what we have to spend on an election.
This is an open town
And
meeting.
March isn't January.
So this would be an open.
Open town
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
So
Okay.
It could be a secret ballot. It could be a secret ballot at an open town meeting, but it would be
So
just
then
like,
there's really no.
we're not doing
Okay.
ballots, we're not doing election clerks,
Yeah.
we're having,
Right.
it would be a town meeting. That was,
I must have missed that, so. But you're still gonna get.
Sure.
No, absolutely.
Collected in.
It also gives us a chance to talk one-on-one with people and explain things when we ask questions, which I think is important.
Okay, so when are we gonna have the public hearing? Do we start with the public hearing?
we will start by signing a warrant,
Yeah.
and then have a public hearing. And as I said, we're going to work to get everything in line, hopefully by the end of January, to have everything to you that we can review, take all of your comments, feedback into that, so that by February, I would like to shoot for February 18th to sign a warrant, to hold a public hearing 10 days before whatever.
February
You
18th.
don't need to hold public hearings.
Oh, an open town meeting, oh, that's right,
Open town
that's
meeting.
right, I
You can
apologize.
You can have
You're right.
public hearings to inform the
But
public,
we
but
don't
you're not
have to.
required.
Thank you very much, sir. That just saved me 10 days.
We have to have a public hearing according to the state regulations.
But we will have,
We
but
go
it's
through
not,
that
it's not in relation to the warrant, it's not the warrant
No.
triggered, which is the, okay, that,
We
yeah,
have to have the
that
public
changes
hearing
everything.
prior
So we
to
will
the
have
meeting.
public hearings prior to the meeting, but it doesn't give us that restriction of when we need to sign the warrant to have that, those days in addition. You verify that
Verify with Jim tomorrow.
submission deadline.
We'll verify all the schedules.
Okay.
So it's
Thank you
sometime,
for that, Sim.
Is the 18th the 3rd?
Oh, 25th.
It's the
Yeah,
25th.
25th.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at that.
so we'll have some more information on the, this, you know, we had discussion before on the seasonal cottages about, you know, didn't really like the numbers, right, so you're having somebody look at that, right?
Yes, we'll filter all this into an application and have everything presented so that it's fully explained.
To us,
To you.
first.
To you first, yeah.
Okay. Discuss meeting format for the regularly scheduled 12/23 Selectmen's meeting.
Time I've been here, the meeting before the holiday is at Town Hall to sign payroll and payable warrants. I want to know if you want to have a full-blown meeting on December 23rd, if you want to follow that fashion and just do payroll payables.
We did it last year. I ran the meeting, I think, Liz, you couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all right with you folks? All right.
Okay. Review and approve and sign the payable and payroll warrants.
So,
Second?
All in favor? Okay, then we have to-
Did you get those?
Did I?
yeah,
You guys want to sign them?
Yep, I think it's, you signed them all?
yep, we did. I looked them over.
Okay, we have the registrar's request relative to the hours that are to be available for registration, reducing those hours as we have in the past. Monday through Friday, 8 AM to 4:30.
So moved.
Motion approved, I thank you. Second on that? Made and seconded, all in favor? Do you want to sign this one? Or-
I
You
don't
got
know
it? Okay.
what,
Okay, your old business, we have Androscoggin Bank, in the process still of creating files and testing functionality of credit and debit card payments. Work in process.
Yes, and the important thing there is there'll be no charges to Town Hall, so we'll move forward on that, and I'll let you know when everything has been fixed.
And next item is, we have a copy of a letter that Phil Stevens and Sarah Downs from the town of Kennebunk have authored to the voters of Kennebunk, encouraging them, from what I can read here, to vote and get an absentee ballot if they are desirous of voting, even if they're not around.
I believe Kennebunk Board is reviewing this as well.
Okay.
And if this board is interested, I wouldn't propose to do it in the forwarding manner that Kennebunk Port and Kennebunk are doing. Kennebunk Port spent, I believe Barry said, about $7,700 on this first class mailing to be forwarded to any residents. I would recommend we do a similar type of letter and do it in a saturation mailing like we do with the Arrow. It costs us $236 to do it, which is, I think it would be worthy to just let people know. I think Dan maybe said that he was surprised at the turnout at Monday night's public hearing. I just want to make sure people understand what the impact is going to be without swaying them either way. They can have their opinion, but their vote's theirs, but they need to know what they're voting on.
So this always would be more or less where it says the tax rate per thousand evaluation, actual taxes now and estimated. So, I mean, you wouldn't actually pick a
No, I would, that's what they're doing, is they're mailing each individual with a mail merge, and this is
Oh.
what's gonna happen to your taxes.
oh,
Theirs is gonna actually show that person's bill and what the difference
it's
would
like
be.
these
Wow.
were Joel and Sarah, okay, yeah.
It's a lot of work.
That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
No wonder it goes so much.
So we're just going to send out one that says tax rate per thousand, actual taxes today and estimated.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, and I would, what was your plan on getting this out?
That saturation mailing like we do with the arrow.
No, but when?
Once we get this arrow out, I'll get this leather together and probably right after the holiday.
Okay, because there's still a couple more public hearings. I'm wondering if we might be able to throw those dates on here. I don't know if we catch it or not, but
I can do my best.
I don't remember what the dates are for this.
Mailing them this time of year, they're gonna end up in somebody's recycle, they're never even gonna look at it. So after the first of the year, I'll have those hit so that that same week, hopefully they can get in people's mailboxes so that the mail has had time to calm down. Because I know this time of year, most stuff that comes in my mailbox that's not holiday related or bills, just kind of.
Yeah, Jack, do you remember when the next public hearings are?
Yes, the third and final public hearing is next Monday night.
Yeah, okay.
Consolidated. There are tours.
Tours, right.
Or additional tours, but.
But are they showing tours in January?
Say again?
Are they gonna show any tours in January, or is it just all this month?
I think the latest are in December.
Yeah, so we'll probably, we'll miss that.
But I mean, this has been out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's
I
just,
mean, I've went to, I don't know how many of them, I
yeah.
can't hear the same thing over and over again, you know.
That's fine, you go in the last.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of.
Just wanna
They've
make
done,
sure,
they've done a wonderful job of getting.
wanna make sure that we have our due diligence, that we try to get this, you know.
I thought we were up around like 10.4 on all that, no? But
MLD.
it has it here, Jack, listed as 9.96. I thought we were more like 10.4 something.
The school
Yeah.
rate,
Yeah. No, the renovation project, the MLD is listed here as 9.96 million. The last I knew, I thought it was 10.
the builder day is 10.32.
Yeah, that's what they talked about at the public
They've
hearing.
got consolidated,
Consolidated is 9.7.
they've got them backwards.
Yeah, backwards.
This says consolidated 11.32, and it says
You might want
Mildred Alday 9.
You
I'm
might
gonna
want the very
I'll call
number.
Joel.
Fast backwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sure is.
I'll get Joel in the morning and let him know that.
So consolidated is 9,
Consolidated is 9.96.
9.7
you got
or
9.96.
6, whatever that specific number is.
I'll call Joel in the morning.
Any other business, folks?
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion into adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Okay.